Hi, I'm Rebecca from Reading ID. Welcome to my channel. And today I'm here in my school library because I am talking about my 5 favorite middle grade books of 2019. Some of these were 2019 releases, a few of them were older books. They were all books that were my favorites, or I saw a huge amount of value in them for the kids in my life. And let's see, the first one I want to talk about is The Hidden Witch by Molly Knox Ostertag. And this one is a sequel. You might have heard of the first one, Witch Boy, and this is the sequel. And then there's a third one, something Midwinter Witch, something wintry. And for me, this was just a perfect sequel. Really perfect. It really follows up on the themes and characters from the first one in exactly the way that I wanted more. And the first book, Witch Boy, it centers on Aster, and his family is magical. All of the boys are shifters, they can change into animals, and all of the girls are witches, or so it seems, until Aster really strongly desires to learn magic, and some secrets are revealed in his family. And it's just a wonderful gender non-conforming queer metaphor. And then there are as well some textually queer characters that are introduced as the series goes along. The second book, The Hidden Witch, focuses a little more on his friend, what's her name, Charlie, who is non-magical. She goes to the local school, but there's sort of like a magical mystery in her life. And then another character is introduced, and I don't want to get too deep into the plot of the second one, but I highly recommend that you pick this up. By the way, I'm happy to report this is very popular with all of my students of all genders. And let's see, the second one I want to talk about, I don't have a copy of because it's all checked out, and that is New Kid by Jerry Craft. And this is another 2019 graphic novel release. I haven't seen it talked about too much on BookTube, if at all, but it caused a huge amount of buzz in the library community, and I picked it up for that reason, and it really lived up to the hype for me. So it's about Jordan, who's transferred to a New York middle school that's way more white than the neighborhood he lives in, and I don't know about your reading taste or the kids in your life, but my kids are just dying for more realistic fiction graphic novels like Raina Telgemeier. And so I need Jerry Craft to write like 20 more books like this and for more publishers to publish more graphic novelists of color, please. My students are waiting. They're literally lined up waiting for them. And in addition to the kid appeal, this book is so worth reading for the way that it really lays bare what we consider today microaggressions. I mean, the dumb, hateful, just kind of ambiently racist comments that kids of color, people of color experience over and over in a white-centric world. Looking for more from Jerry Craft, please. So the third book I want to talk about is not a 2019 release. It's a little bit older, but it is another graphic novel, and that's Ghostopolis by Doug TenNapel. And this book I picked up on the recommendation of my students. It's not really my kind of thing. It is kind of like spooky fantasy. This kid gets pulled into kind of an underworld before his time. And of course, there's a little bit of a quest and wacky characters, and there's this like bone horse. And yeah, not quite my thing, but so many of my fifth graders when they were graduating in June, they reported that this was their favorite book they've checked out of our library of all time. So when so many kids said that over and over, I had to pick it up. And I have read other books by Doug TenNapel, and he is so creative. So again, this seems a little bit under the radar. Highly recommend that you pick it up, especially for kids in your life that love fantasy, love kind of a little bit of spooky element to their fantasy graphic novels. I believe this was the last book I read of 2019, and I knew it was going to be spectacular. You've probably heard it talked about on BookTube before. It is Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds, and I listened to it on audiobook, and it's stunning. This is a speculative fiction gem. We meet Will, whose older brother has just been shot and killed, and he's got a gun. He's in an elevator. He's ready to carry on this cycle of violence. And on each floor going down, he encounters a ghost. And each ghost complicates that choice for him. And similarly, the reader is brought deeper into that world, sort of the ecosystem of, Black neighborhoods that experience this cycle of violence. The ecosystem is the term that Jason Reynolds uses in the interview. The author's decision to tell this story in verse, it makes it short, punchy, gritty. It gets in and it gets out with its concept. I mean, it was almost like a short story, and I listened to the audio. It's only about an hour long. It's read beautifully by the author. It also includes this fantastic interview where he talks a little more about his choices in writing the book and his inspiration from working with kids in the juvenile justice system. All right, the last book I want to talk about, a little lighter, is The Wild Robot by Peter Brown. This is another slightly older release, I think 2016, and then it has a sequel that came out in 2018. So this is a book by Peter Brown, who's actually one of my favorite picture book authors and illustrators. So this comes from the author being very interested in the natural world and telling a kind of longer form science fiction story, a little bit of an allegory of Roz, who's a robot, and she crash lands on this island, ends up kind of having a found family of animals, and it's just absolutely charming. I had to read it because I bought it for my 10-year-old friend, and he said, "Oh, my teacher read me this story and I loved it." So he and his family read it together before bedtime, and then immediately got the sequel and read it. If you're a lover of like AI stories and science fiction, and you haven't really found middle grade that covers that topic, definitely pick up The Wild Robot by Peter Brown. All right, those were my top 5 middle grade fiction of 2019. I'm also going to be bringing videos about my top science fiction of 2019 and top queer books of 2019. Did you read some awesome middle grade in 2019 that I should check out? Please tell me down below. I'm always looking for what are people out there reading, not just kind of what's being hyped by the library world. All right, thanks. Have a wonderful day.